This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
Low energy, unfocused, foggy? You might be dehydrated. Whether it's hot yoga, over 100-degree weather, or too much sun. Gator Light, with a specialized blend of 5 electrolytes, was scientifically designed to help move fluids into the body faster for rapid rehydration. Shop now at retailers nationwide. Gator Light hydrates faster than water. Is it in you? Symptoms noted are signs of mild to moderate dehydration. Consult a healthcare professional if symptoms persist.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you are the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate by automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
From the Fifth Quarter Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to Coach Unplugged. And now, your host, Steve Collins.
Hey everybody, welcome to Coach Unplugged. I'm so happy you decided to join us. Before we get started today, I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors. First of all, Dr. Dish, the #1 shoe machine on the market. I've said this multiple times. We own 3 of them. I want a 4th and a 5th. My AAD's listening to me, but they're so great. They work so well. They're so easy to set up. I think my record is 37 seconds or 32 seconds to set it up. But mention Coach Unplugged, they'll give you $450 off. Mention Coach Collins, they'll take really good care of you. And also go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. This is a one-stop shop for basketball coaches. It's everything you need from a nationally ranked. We won 3 state titles. I think we were just talking recently. We've won over 460 games in our program and lost 130 over the last 20 years. And I think we know the secret sauce to be successful, the roadmap, what it takes on and off the court. So go over and check it out and enjoy the podcast. Bye.
Our question today is dedicated to something that I actually went backwards on in my coaching career. When I started coaching, I was a head coach immediately, getting into it when I started coaching at the age of 20 years old. Now I'm 34. I started as a middle school coach, and then I moved on to high school level, and then ultimately as an assistant at the collegiate level. But one thing that I have learned to do the last couple of years is just being assistant. One of the reasons why I decided to become an assistant was it just met my lifestyle in regards to my family. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. It was time to take a break from being a head coach at a high level, and so it's been a wonderful transition into being an assistant. So I'm going to give my perspective of what it's like to be an effective assistant, and then how to delegate and be effective in making sure that your assistants on your high school team, if you're a head coach at any level in high school, how they can be effective. So really our question today is, how can we make our assistant coaches effective, okay? And then how to be an effective assistant and coach if you're in that role. So as a head coach, how can you make your assistants effective? And then how can you be effective if you're an assistant coach? As I like to do things in 3s. So I'm going to give you 3 points at both areas. First area I'd like to really focus on is, how can a head coach do a great job of making sure their assistants are being effective? First off, it goes off, you got to give them something to do. Too often coaches come in, they just kind of sit there and they maybe help out in drills, and they're kind of waiting and seeing what they should be doing at practice. You need to delegate work to your assistants, from the standpoint of your practices to everything else you do in your program. You do not have to put all the weight on your shoulder in any level that you coach. Have them in charge of skill development or a focus area of defense or offense. Get to know what your assistant coach's strengths are, or what is something they really want to build on. What are some of their goals, and help them and support that. Coaching is a field like education where we should be giving back to the people that want to continue on in the coaching field. So we need to learn to delegate power to our assistant coaches because they're only going to be effective if you give them something to do. Things that I have done in the past in delegating is especially one thing you want to look at when delegating within not practice but in the game. Delegate them to keep track of certain statistics or look at things that are a big emphasis that night. Whether it's rebounding, defensive rotation, identifying foul trouble, all those different things, monitoring substitutions. One of the things I always think about is building relationships with certain players because as a head coach, your voice can be white noise. And I think it's really important if you can delegate your assistants to build strong relationships with your players as well, you're going to be able to get them to play harder for you. The second point is emphasize their strengths and where their passions reside in the game of basketball. So if they're really into defense, or my assistant when I was a varsity coach was phenomenal at defense and loved defense. And I let him kind of do the defensive part in practice. And I was able to, as I continued on as a coach, I was able to sit back and watch him do the defense, and I was able to take notes, look over things, pull kids aside, talk to them, and evaluate my practice and watching him kind of conduct the defense. So, having more voice in your practice is going to be effective. So finding ways that you can emphasize their strengths. And then the last one, I think, is keeping them involved in the planning process and knowing them and keeping them informed all the time. I think if you can keep them involved in knowing what's going to happen at practice the next day, helping out plan practice, giving them a voice, not just having them come in with no practice plan available for them. We're in a generation now where technology is so accessible. I used to send my practices via Google because it's something that you can edit. My assistants would edit on, and I could view it at any time. You could send it through a phone. You could have a copy of it. If you're not very tech savvy, have a copy of it, and then maybe you have some type of warm up drill in the beginning of practice. That's a great opportunity for you and your staff to talk about what your goals are in practice, and then maybe at the end of practice, maybe start planning for those next couple days. I know that Coach Collins is meeting with his staff on a weekly basis to kind of plan out the week and map out the week. They should be involved in that planning process. So again, delegate, emphasize what they're good at, and then keep them involved in the planning process, and then you're going to get really effective assistant coaches. And then, constantly have them being a part of everything that you do within your program. So how to be an effective assistant coach. I learned to be an effective assistant coach because I was a head coach, so I had high knowledge of what I was already doing. And when I got into the collegiate level, I was able to take my knowledge, and I was very lucky to have a head coach that did a great job of allowing me to be a voice in the program. He wanted to enrich my strengths of what I know as a coach, and it ultimately ended up us winning a state championship. So number one, I think, is don't be passive, be a voice. But it's knowing when to speak and knowing that you need to continue to have that common language. But just don't sit back and allow the head coach to do everything and say everything. Be okay to speak up and say something and emphasize something, and so the kids can hear a different point of view. And it's not even a voice that has to be loud and projecting. It's in the context of the drills. It's when it's going 5v5 and 3 or 4 players are out of the drill right now, and you're able to touch base on some key points that you guys are talking about within your offense or your defense, or just little things. If you're just sitting there and watching, you're not going to be effective. Communication, constantly being a voice within the program and the team that you're coaching. Second one, finding ways to build connections with players. I feel like one of the most effective things that assistant coaches can do is build relationships with players. As a head coach, we are so invested in so many different things, especially when you're starting to rebuild a program from the ground up, or you're coming into a new program and trying to figure out everything in regards to what you're trying to do within that program that you're trying to run. If you can build relationships with those players and help that coach and be able to get them to play hard and to get them to do the things that the coach wants, you are going to be a very effective assistant coach. I think that's so important. I know that from being a teacher myself, and being an assistant, is that anything is more successful when you're able to build relationships with young people. And so I think that's extremely important as being an effective assistant coach. The last thing is providing insight and your own piece to the program. You cannot be a robot, because if you're just going to be a robot, your program that you're part of is only going to be as good as the one person in charge. One thing that people don't understand is the great programs out there at the collegiate level have wonderful assistants that provide input and their strengths to every day. You know, I constantly look back at Duke. Duke has had phenomenal assistant coaches that have presented themselves as to be great head coaches in other places. You know, but they were able to be a part of and voice themselves in Duke basketball. Whatever basketball program you're in, you cannot be afraid to not provide insight and suggestions in the team that you're coaching, because you just can't be there and back off. I think the coach in the end, if he cannot or she cannot be a control freak, you know, they have to be able to trust in you to provide insight and feedback about, all right, this isn't working. Maybe we need to do this defensively right now. Or maybe we need to focus a little bit more on rebound positioning. You know, you need to be that other voice and help them, because, again, a head coach, it's really hard. You become tunnel vision because it becomes such an overwhelming task in this day and age in regards to coaching the game of basketball. So you're not only going to be able to be effective for your team, but you're also going to support that head coach that you're part of as well. So those are some big key points and about being an effective coach, an assistant coach, and then how a head coach can make their assistant coach effective too, because it's really a two-way street. Assistant coaches are only as effective as the head coach allows them to be, and then once they feel if they are allowed to be effective, then they have to kind of take its course in regards to what they're doing at the basketball program. The question of the day is, why is there such a low turnout in high school basketball for girls? And I don't know. You know, I see more and more Facebook posts, tweets about the lack of enrollment and the lack of participants and females in basketball, and I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's a topic that we need to continue to address. I feel like in general we have less three-sport athletes between males and females, but it seems like more than ever we're seeing a less and less multi-sport female athletes, especially less girls wanting to play basketball. I don't know what it is. I think number one is that they are specializing in multiple sports at a young age. I also think that they are playing too many games and they're getting sick of it. By the time they get to high school, they've played too many games. It's way too, it's not fun anymore for them. I think for girls, and I'm not just making a stereotype, I think the fun piece is really important in them wanting to continue to play the game of basketball in any sport. And I think if we do not make it fun, and we make it so serious at younger ages and we play so many games, they just get sick of it. And I think that's one of the key problems, is that they just get sick of it by the time they get to high school. It's a long season, and it's a long season for both genders. It's a long, long season. And so I think that we have to be conscientious of how many games we play, how much we do with our basketball players at a young age, to help the game grow so they're playing at the varsity level, at the highest level when they get to us at high school. If you have any suggestions related to that topic, please don't be afraid to contact us at teachhoots.com, on our Facebook page. You can email us directly. We'll love your suggestions. I really want to support this mission of getting more female athletes to continue to play the game of basketball. But I know it's a big problem across the country, and so we need to continue to support that and get more players to want to play. It's a great game, and I want people to continue to play it. Again, have a great, great week. This is Coach Steger.
Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to support us, you want to help us keep the lights on here at teachhoops.com, go over, join, 14-day free trial, and then stop the car, subscribe, like, Apple 5-star review. That would be good. All right. Maybe. Have a good day. Bye.
NFL football season is here, which means when you switch to Verizon, it feels like touchdown, because you get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube on us when you buy an eligible 5G phone on select unlimited plans, which means you can watch every out-of-market game every Sunday afternoon, and it's all on us. Now that's the Verizon way to kick off the NFL football season right. Switch and get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube on us, only with Verizon.
The right window treatments change everything. Your sleep, your privacy, the way every room looks and feels. At Blinds.com, we've spent 30 years making it surprisingly simple to get exactly what your home needs. We've covered over 25 million windows and have 50,000 5-star reviews to prove we deliver. Whether you DIY it or want a pro to handle everything from measure to install, we have you covered. Real design professionals, free samples, zero pressure. Right now, get up to 45% off site-wide, plus get a free professional measure at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.